Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 248. Hello there. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. For those who are brand new to the show, my name is Tess Wicks. I am the host, founder of Wander Wealthy, and financial coach turned business coach for all my new, aspiring, and even seasoned money coaches out there in the world. This podcast is here to help you and help guide you and provide some tips, insights, ideas for you and the business that you want to build, which is most likely going to be focused on helping other people with their money. And today we are talking about a topic that I think many of us have at one point or another experienced a bit of a struggle with. It is the fear of visibility. I'm going to define it in a little bit and help you understand if you're not quite sure what that really means, but you just had a feeling and that's why you're tuning into this episode, what I'm specifically talking about here. But before I get into the topic, I want to introduce you to this week's podcast episode sponsor, which is the Client Attraction Content Matrix. So today's episode is specifically around being visible and this fear around showing up on social media. And ideally, once you're finished with this episode and you're looking to kind of start getting to work and taking some small steps of courage, which we're going to talk about, and how you can overcome this fear, you might be looking for a little bit of structure to do that within. And if you're looking for structure that also helps you do things in an effective manner, i.e., get yourself out there, create content, post to social media, maybe make videos or reels or whatever that looks like for you, but doing it effectively so that you are speaking to your ideal clients and promoting what it is that you have to offer and also getting them to ultimately sign up and start to work with you, then the Client Attraction Content Matrix brings that all together. So not only is it just, a beautiful content calendar, which it does include, but that's like the least valuable thing, which I think for a lot of people, just having a content calendar would be wonderful. But the Client Attraction Content Matrix takes it a step further. We really look at your ideal clients and what it is that you have to sell to them and how you want to ultimately be working with them. And we look at defining your core content pillars or the themes of your content and then working that through a specific content strategy to help you get out there more and really stand in your authority as the coach and an expert in this space, and to mix up your content in a way that allows them to naturally kind of read all of it or watch all of it, consume all of it is what I'm trying to say, and then want to start to work with you and purchase whatever it is that you are selling. So it's all of my best kind of marketing knowledge put into one sort of medium. I don't want to call it a mini course, but it's a solid course. It's a program that's going to really help you build out your very own tool that you're going to use in your everyday life when it comes to your business. It's something that I use personally. I've developed my entire marketing plan from the Content Matrix and from what I'm teaching you when you do sign up for the program. I use it every single day in my business, and I just want to teach you how to develop your own tool to use in your business. So for more information or to get yourself signed up, head to wanderwealthy.com/content. If you want a special kind of behind the scenes deal, if you sign up for the pricing formula, which is a quick guide and calculator to price your coaching services, you can head to wanderwealthy.com/pricing. And then through that, by being a customer of the pricing formula, you will get a very special discount for the Client Attraction Content Matrix. So kind of a 2-for-1, but the matrix is where it's at. It's going to help you bust through these visibility walls and build that business that you've been wanting to build. So wanderwealthy.com/content. On to this week's episode, the fear of visibility and how to deal. So this has come up with a handful of my own clients who join the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, and I introduced to them utilizing social media as one of the best ways when you're early on in your business to find your clients, to create relationships, and to ultimately convert them into paying clients, and do it in a much faster way, an effective way than, building out a blog or spending a lot of time creating a funnel and going kind of like the email marketing webinar opt-in route. However, with the idea that, okay, we're going to leverage and utilize this powerful thing of social media, comes for many people a fear behind actually going out there. And we kind of summarize this fear as the fear of visibility. But really, when we talk about the fear of visibility, we're talking about some underlying fears, which we're going to get to. But first, let's define this fear of visibility. Just what does that look like? How does it manifest? Because it's a name that we put to this. And I think for a lot of people who are experiencing these other feelings, when we talk about, oh, that's the fear of visibility, they go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But if you don't have that lingo yet, then you might be still wanting to kind of put two and two together. So for a majority of my clients, this fear of visibility manifests in a way of them having a fear of showing up on social media. Now, that could literally look like showing their face and, maybe even taking photos of themselves and posting them. It could be actually, showing their face in stories, or even hearing their voice in stories, even if they're not showing their face. And I'm specifically talking about like Instagram or Facebook stories. It could be a fear of getting on video and kind of doing live videos or even pre-recorded videos. And in some cases, it's also a fear of not necessarily showing the face, right? Maybe they're using stock images or graphics that they're creating, but it's a fear of showcasing themselves as an authority and stepping into the identity of a business owner, right? And it's all culminates around making that public, right? Taking that out and posting it and kind of standing firm in like, yep, I wrote that, or yep, I took that photo and I'm feeling confident about it and I'm putting it out there. Or even if you don't feel confident about it, you're still putting it out there. And those who experience these fears of not wanting to put themselves out there in, any way, shape, or form that exists. Maybe you are okay with writing things and posting it behind a graphic, but you could never fathom, doing a live video or something of that sort. Whatever you're experiencing, we call this the fear of visibility or the fear of being seen. And what's interesting here, because I think there's other definitions for the fear of being seen as well, but this is as it specifically relates to you building your business. And what's interesting here is, as I was saying earlier, there actually is no fear here, right? There's an underlying fear that creates this, oh, I'm actually just afraid of being visible. And those underlying fears are what you're experiencing that leads you to kind of avoid this visibility idea. So it's not really a fear of being visible, but that's how we define it so that we can understand and group all of these other kind of underlying fears. And we're just seeing it manifest in the fear of visibility, which then we can help pinpoint and define why you might not be reaching your goals in your business, or why you might be, I don't want to call it self-sabotaging, but in a way you could look at it like that if that's how you want to define it. But, where you are getting in your own way. Because if you want to leverage and use social media to directly interact with ideal clients and create a very effective and efficient way to turn strangers or even like kind of acquaintances into paying clients, then we know that we want to utilize these platforms, but there's something that is stopping us. And again, we kind of summarize that into the fear of visibility, but there's something underneath. Now, a lot of people experience kind of that underlying fear as fear of judgment, right? Or fear of rejection, which we'll get into in a little bit. But if we can just touch on this fear of judgment first and foremost, right? I can't stand in this authority space and make my opinions and my thoughts known because what will they think? Or I can't post this photo of myself because what will they think? Or, I can't do these other things because what will they think? And we talked quite extensively, actually 2 weeks back in episode 246, about how to stop caring what other people think, right? And I even mentioned, that I hope I mentioned, maybe I didn't, but I'm going to mention it now. That's not an overnight thing, right? You don't just immediately stop what people think or stop caring what people think. You have to work on it. And little by little, it just gets easier because you step into this new identity of who you are. And therefore, what people think of you no longer applies because you are a new, different, more evolved person. But if you need to, I would definitely suggest going and listening to that episode kind of in alignment with this episode. But the fear of visibility isn't just the fear of judgment. It's part of it potentially, and maybe that is your leading driver, in which you absolutely can go listen to episode 246, but it may not be the full thing. It may not be the full explanation. There are a couple other fears that keep us from the willingness to be visible. And sometimes they're just our own internal manifestation and they have nothing to do with what other people, might be thinking about it, or it might not be anything about the external world. So some of these other fears I want to also share just here and now. Another one, and a reason why you might be holding yourself back from putting yourself out there, is an underlying fear of failure. I think a majority of us have this fear, right? A lot of us don't want to try something because we're constantly thinking about the worst case scenario. And when you make yourself visible, that taps into that fear of failure, because it's either that you're making yourself visible and you're just doing that for yourself, but because you're kind of getting yourself out there and you're posting it online and you're making it public for anyone to see, even if no one is seeing it, you're seeing it. And then if things don't go as planned, right? Or if things don't turn out how you were visualizing them to turn out, then you interpret that as a failure, right? So you made it public, even if no one else sees it, it's still this underlying fear that you're experiencing. Now, it could also be a fear of failure in terms of how other people perceive it, which then kind of goes along the lines of this fear of judgment or, caring what other people think. But I just wanted to state that failure is something that you can internalize on your own, or you could have a very specific fear of what other people think, which is this fear of them observing you not succeeding. Regardless, it's a fear of failure. And that is a fear that we need to work through and to overcome so that you can be visible. One of the things that I share with my clients when they join the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, and we mostly do this in the group round, which I'm no longer offering, but I need to find a way to help those in my one-on-one experience this visualization. But we really picture kind of a situation where you would do something regardless of how scary it is, because we attach the thing that you need to do to, usually it's something outside of yourself, like running into a burning building to save someone you love most in the world. And what we're really doing is we're finding a deep and compelling why you need to be doing this beyond the fear of you succeeding or failing, right? Like, you're going to run into that burning building to save the person you love most in this world. And you're not going to care what you look like. You're not going to care if you trip on the stairs on the way in. You're not going to care if you, whatever happens to you, because you have a deep and compelling why. And the truth is, building a business is far less scary than running into a burning building, and no one's going to ask you to do that. But we make up these fears, right? We have all these fears beyond what is really going to happen because we always imagine the worst case scenario. If you have a strong and compelling why, you can kind of leapfrog over that fear of failure, because then whether you succeed or fail is irrelevant. It's the fact that you tried because you wanted to deeply help others. This is also why very early on in the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, we talk about the importance of being client focused versus, monetarily focused, right? That's not to say that money isn't important. That's not to say that, maybe another why that you're in this business is because there is a financial gain to it. Maybe it is because you want to get out of your 9-to-5, but what you're doing, you have to be doing it beyond the selfish reasons that you might have. And I'm not saying like selfish is a bad thing. I think being selfish can be a good thing in terms of taking care of yourself, right? And knowing that you need to get yourself out of maybe a toxic work environment or whatever that is. I'm also just saying that so often we need a stronger why that's beyond ourselves, which usually then we can put into helping our clients, helping the other people. And then if we trip on the way, we don't really care about those smaller failures. We don't really care about what it's going to look like or how it's going to be perceived, because we know we're in this for them, the people that we really want to help and want to serve. So that's my little anecdote on the fear of failure, but it is one that absolutely can then lead to you being so afraid that you're going to fail that you're not even willing to try. And if that's the case, we need to find a deeper, stronger, compelling why for you doing this. And if you're struggling to find that, maybe you have to switch markets, maybe you have to switch your client base, or maybe you have to get out and talk to them and recognize that you actually can help them so much so, and they're in a, so much of a tricky situation that you got to get out there. You got to do this. There's just no reason not to anymore. Okay. The other fear that can be underlying this fear of visibility is a fear of inadequacy. And I think a lot of times this comes up when we consume more than we create. And we look around and we look at what everyone else is creating and we go, I could never, do it that well, or mine could never be that creative, or who's going to read or watch my stuff when there's all these other people. And again, like all fears take time, and they also take practice and, small steps of courage to overcome. It's not just going to happen in the blink of an eye. But if I can offer anything that could be that pivotal thing for you, or the thing to maybe your like guiding light to go back to when you are experiencing that fear of inadequacy specifically, is to remember that we all are magnetized to different things, different people, different vibes, different environments, and there is a reason for that. And if you're stopping yourself short because you just don't think you can measure up, know that there are people who only want to learn from you, right? I mean, as odd as it is, I know that some people listen to this podcast because they like the sound of my voice. And I know that that's like really weird, but I seriously get messages about it far more than I think any human being should get a message about a thing that makes like no sense. But it's wonderful. It's a wonderful compliment, and I love hearing about it. So if you like to hear the sound of my voice, please let me know. Keep reaching out. I'm going to figure out a way to monetize it someday if I can find a strong and compelling why. Like maybe I'll find an agent and become a voice actor. But I know that's weird, okay? But that is such a random, unique, niche thing that people are magnetized to me for, right? And beyond that, okay, like maybe I'm selling myself short. Maybe I do give good business advice and I do, share my experiences that help people learn, of course, right? But people are magnetized to you for a variety of different reasons, but also just because you are you and you bring your own unique twist and spin to things. So even if other people are doing it, even if you perceive them as doing it better, know that, you might be the only person that these people know about. And maybe they become early adopters of you. And then even if they do find other people doing something similar that you might be perceiving as them doing better, your true fans might just like the way you do it better. Maybe you're more real. Maybe you're more honest. Maybe you share better advice. Maybe you have better stories. Maybe I don't know. Like there's so many different reasons why people are going to be thinking that you are the greatest of all time. You're the GOAT, not the person that you might be measuring up against. And this fear of inadequacy, I think it really comes from the idea that we're all in competition with each other, right? And that comes from our kind of traditional school structure system. I know I talk about that a lot, but it's one that I really do feel can hold people back, especially if you're just an outside the box thinker, learner, neurodivergent, or just someone who doesn't fit into what the regular system had to offer. Or if you're realizing that regular system, absolutely has not helped us in our adult lives. But we're still ingrained with this idea that we're all shooting for perfection, and anything short of perfection, we're going to be measured up against everyone else and then put on this ranked scale. And that doesn't help us. And that's not real life, right? No one is grading you and no one is ranking you. There might be people, but they need to get a life. But no one is truly doing that who really cares about you. And that will never, ever, ever define your success or your fulfillment or the results that you actually get for your clients, which is ultimately what matters. So for fear of inadequacy, remember that everyone is different. Everyone has their own unique sauce. And people are going to be drawn to yours for a variety of reasons, and some that you just will never understand. But they're going to be there and you're going to love them. And that is a good enough reason in and of itself to show up and be their support and offer them the help that you know you can. The other fear that's underlying this fear of visibility is a fear of uncertainty. Another one that, has nothing to do with judgment and, what other people will think of you. But it could, I guess. You could be having this fear of uncertainty of how people will perceive you and not being able to control that. But the fear is really kind of this lack of control, this lack of knowing, is it going to work or not? And I think we all crave a guarantee before we do things, but nothing in life is guaranteed, right? But we're all looking for that guarantee. And honestly, building a business, as very low risk as it is, right? Because especially building an online coaching business, the actual overhead and the actual startup costs are so low that you truly can build it from nothing other than an internet connection. But there's still a risk, right? There's still the risk of, we don't know, even though all you need is an internet connection, that doesn't guarantee it's going to take off, right? So there's still some risk involved. And that's just something that we have to get comfortable with and know that, those who risk coming face to face with uncertainty actually give themselves a chance to succeed, right? Actually give themselves a chance to build a little bit more certainty on top of each other every step they take. I think it's also recognizing and realizing that everything in life is uncertain. We don't know all the answers. And anything that you do, you don't know if it's perfect. You don't know if it's the right thing. You just have to be willing to try. Yes, we've just found a way to kind of I guess, socialize and normalize certain aspects of life, certain paths that make it feel more certain. But in reality, if you really zoom out, nothing is certain. And every decision we make, everything that we do, every form that we put ourselves out there is uncertainty. There's just acceptable, normalized uncertainty, and then everything else. And what you're trying to do is a little bit of everything else. So, I mean, how do you deal with that? I think it's wonderful to have support. Some people who maybe have been there, who can give you just their own experience and story and maybe share with you their tips. But on the other hand, it's also just knowing, again, that strong and compelling why, to know that even if it doesn't succeed or no matter what happens, you'll be so glad that you tried, right? It's that, I think, Maya Angelou quote of, what if you fail? Oh, but what if you succeed? I'm totally botching it, but I think the gist is always, people always think, what if this goes wrong? Or here's all the things I don't want to happen. Or, here's all the ways that it could not work out, and never give themselves the benefit of the doubt. Like, what if it all goes right? Or here are the things that I do want to happen. And what if it does work out? So give that a try. The other fear underlying this fear of visibility is a fear of rejection. This is all of our kind of deepest programmed fear, because as humans, we rely on our community. We rely on a tribe of people to bring us up in the world, to feed us, to shelter us, to clothe us, and to keep us safe. And when you start acting in opposite ways of the just like normalized, socialized belief system and pathway that we're all supposed to take and the things that we're all supposed to do, then that puts you at risk, right? There's a little bit of fear of uncertainty here, because it puts you at risk of being rejected from your tribe. And maybe you've experienced that in the past, or maybe this is very well known that you are going to experience this. And this very much is along those lines of the fear of what other people think and the fear of judgment. And again, suggesting you to go back to 246 and listen to kind of my words of, I don't even know if I should call them wisdom, but I hope they're in some way, shape, or form a bit wise on how to really help you find and build your community, and know that there are some people in your life that want you to fit into their box of what makes them comfortable. And when you start making them uncomfortable in a way that is obviously okay and safe for you to do and safe for them for you to do, but it's just going against the grain of what they would expect of you, then it might be time for you to move on or to put some boundaries up so that you can protect yourself and still allow yourself to live the life and do the thing and build the thing and do the thing for others that you want to be doing. So now that we have an understanding of these underlying fears, and you have some of my best tips, and I hope that you are taking notes, and if not, you can go back, listen to it at 1.5 speed and take your notes down. You can really consider, maybe I don't have a strong enough compelling why, or maybe there's something else that I need to work on and work through. But also with that knowledge that I've been kind of repeating since the start of this episode, is that you're not going to overcome it overnight, right? You have to take these small steps of courage that I've been alluding to recognize that it is safe for you to be visible, to recognize that some of your fears are really just made up in your mind to kind of keep yourself in the identity and the vision that maybe other people have for you, or maybe that you used to have for you, and to keep yourself from expanding and evolving into a version of yourself that actually you want to be and that you know you need to be, so that you can step into building this business and being the coach that you want to be. So as someone who for a long time, I've actually forgotten that I experienced this fear as well. Because I remember being back in 2015 in my condo in Chicago, signing up for this 30-day video making challenge. It was something along those lines. One of my early podcast interviewees suggested that I sign up for this. And I thought, you know what? Someday I might want to do YouTube, so I might as well. And I just started. And little by little, I grew more and more comfortable, but it was just as uncomfortable for me as well. So it's hard for me to remember that, which I hope can give you some faith and some hope yourself to know that it truly does get easier and better, and you kind of forget that it was hard for you in the first place. But here's what I had to do to overcome it. Like I said, small steps of courage. I think what's important to note here is that courage doesn't feel good. We've talked about that. So don't force yourself to go big time. Don't force yourself to make a 15-minute long video, right? Don't force yourself to go live when that is like the epitome of all of your nightmares put together, right? Don't force yourself to do anything that is the complete opposite, but take small steps of courage. What can you do today? What's something very small that you can do today? And so what I typically challenge my clients to do, depending on where their kind of fear of visibility has manifested, again, this is between, fear of showing your face, fear of showing up on video and not knowing what to say, fear of the written word and making yourself and positioning yourself as the authority, is I actually challenge them to practice doing it for themselves first. So I'm going to use fear of kind of showing your face and making stories on your Instagram or Facebook or any other platform that has a story-like feature. So what I challenge my clients to do is to start getting comfortable just talking to their camera. And so open up, let's call it Instagram, open up the story recording area and just start practicing. Look around, see that there are filters that you can add. So if you're always worried about your complexion or not having makeup on, I throw a filter on just because it makes me show up, right? I know it's not always the best for everyone else to see you constantly filtered, but some days I know if I don't do it now and I wait and I think, oh, I'm going to have to wait until I get all my makeup on, then I'm not going to do it. So instead I throw on a filter, one that doesn't completely distort me, but that's enough for me to at least get it started. And for you right now, remember, you're just practicing. You're not planning to post this out to anyone. You're just playing and practicing and giving yourself the reps of seeing that you can do this. So I want you to practice just opening up the camera, hitting record, and talking. And it doesn't matter if you have no idea what to say or if it comes out sounding really lame in your mind, but just giving yourself the permission to do it. You do not have to post it, right? Even if you accidentally post it, you can go in and delete it immediately. No one is going to see it, but you won't accidentally post it because it's not actually that easy to do. But I want you to just practice. So start one day just saying a thing. Maybe you're sharing a story or you're sharing a lesson or whatever it is. Again, if your fear is around authority, just practice writing, write what you would want to post for now, okay? If it's just taking photos of yourself, set up the camera and give yourself permission to, do that thing that you never would have been caught dead doing before, right? I remember when selfies became a thing in, 2016, and I was like, no way in hell am I ever going to post a selfie of myself on social media. Today, I do it almost every day, right? I take a selfie of myself, post it to my stories, and share, my agenda for the day. It's just become acceptable and normalized, but in your mind, you might still be living from that frame of mind of this is not okay, that's weird, and we don't do that. So we're working on shifting your identity And if you don't want to post a selfie, you don't have to, but we do want to work on shifting your identity into the version that says, I do these things because I want to, and I don't let that fear control me anymore, right? I don't let that fear keep me from doing the things that I actually want to do and showing up in the ways that I want to show up. And so even if you can't show up publicly like that now, we can practice creating the content at least in that format right now. So small steps of courage, even the discomfort of giving it a go, even though you're not going to post it. And do it, commit to doing that and taking these small steps every single day. Practice will make it easier, and you're going to hate the first ones. You might even hate the 10th and the 20th, but eventually you'll feel compelled to share, right? Eventually you'll get so sick of practicing and then deleting that you'll just be like, I don't even care if it's not good this time, this round, whatever, this attempt. I'm just going to put it out there because it's time for me to put this out there, right? People need to hear this. I don't need to hear it anymore, but other people need to hear it. So I'm going to get it out. And remember that it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be the best thing you've ever created, because everything you create will get better no matter what. So even if you want it to be the best thing you've ever created, 30 days from now, 3 months from now, 3 years from now, you're going to get better. And then you're going to look back and cringe regardless. So, I mean, I know easier said than done, but if you're going to cringe regardless, does it really matter if you're even cringing right now? Obviously, you want to be proud of your work, but remember that you're only going to get better. And what you're really practicing right now, what you're really, once you get to that point of making it public, you're really just practicing making it public. You're practicing taking that small step of courage of putting it out to the world, and then adjusting, tweaking, improving from there. So finding a way to kind of make this daily commitment to yourself, to practice, and then eventually hit publish. The last thing I want to share, and I believe I mentioned this on episode 246, but if you are having the fear that is around other people's judgments and their rejections of you, then my recommendation is to clear out your connections. I think this is like a great mental health check regardless, is like clear out who you're following, or even allow yourself to block people who are following you who may not be healthy for you to have following you or you following them, right? You're always going to feel uncomfortable stepping into this new identity when there are people following along who know you in your old identity, and more specifically, who would not accept you in your new identity. So it's okay for you to just claim that like this is no longer the space for them to be following you, because what you're posting and what you're sharing is not relevant to them, even if it is, but you just don't feel safe or comfortable having that be the situation, then you can, and you're given permission to clear out your connections. I know that might feel kind of ruthless, but if it's what you have to do to make this step happen, to allow yourself to be visible, know that it's safe for you to be visible. And also it's safe for you to put boundaries up and kind of protect yourself any way that you need to, so that you can do the thing that you most want to do. All right. So with that, I am sharing a 14-day visibility challenge with you. Now, this is something that I whipped up because I was thinking about what really helped me when I was working on, getting comfortable being on video. And this doesn't necessarily have to be video specific, but maybe you're wanting to make a podcast, or maybe you're wanting to get on stories, or maybe you're wanting to make posts, and you're just looking for a way to get comfortable doing that. So I put this 14-day visibility challenge together, and it's just going to be a really easy kind of guide PDF download that you can grab by going to the show notes of this week's episode. So head to wanderwealthypodcast.com/podcast/episode 248. And you will see a link there for the visibility challenge. This is the only place that it's available. So you got to go to wanderwealthypodcast.com/podcast/episode 248. And then I will deliver the guide to you that takes you through 14 days of practicing, getting comfortable, and making yourself more visible so that you can change more lives. Don't forget, if you want to take this to the next step, I have the Client Attraction Content Matrix to offer you. It's everything you need to create this really amazing tool. But in addition to that, there is a bonus that gives you over 100 prompts that you can use. So once you're done with your visibility challenge, you can actually start making great content online that you don't even have to come up with the ideas. The ideas are already there. So you can just kind of take those prompts and run with it. Again, in any format that you want to create the content in, it can absolutely work for a podcast, for Instagram stories, for a LinkedIn post, however you want to be showing up. Use those prompts and allow them to continue to help you build that consistency and build that content pool that you're working on. And of course, build that courage and that willingness to be visible and change some lives. So to get your hands on the Client Attraction Content Matrix, head to wanderwealthy.com/content and let's get things rolling. I cannot wait to see what work you put out into the world when you face your visibility fears and overcome them with grace, knowing that you have a strong, compelling why. And if you need anything from me or you want me to check out your work that you're putting out in the world, send me a DM over on Instagram. I'm Tess_Wicks. And until next time, I hope you wander wealthy.